Microphone should be good. Let me turn down some music here. That's 5%. Welcome everybody to another radiology Q&A on the Radiologic Technologist podcast. Let me bring up the appropriate screens here. Oh, there was that. Thank you for stopping by, checking out the channel. You are here because you have questions about radiology in general, and I am here to answer those questions. I pop on here at least once a week. Good. Oh, I know what that is. I have it going right here. 5%. Okay. That is so I can chat. I believe I have to chat through that area. So let's hop right into it. I have 3 questions. I want to thank everybody for coming by. Thank everybody for sending me questions through emails. I have 3 questions that I need to get addressed. A couple of them are a few days old, so I want to get started on those. If you can hear me okay, please comment in the comment box. Where is my comment box? Let's go bigger there. So I can't do it there. There's 2 of you on at least. Shoot me a comment, give me a thumbs up, let me know you can hear me okay. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Why isn't it showing me the comment box on here? It's way over here. It's way down here. Pop out, chat. See if that works. Okay, leave me a comment. Let me know you can hear me. Please comment that you can hear me. Oh, thanks, Alo. Appreciate it. Okay, well, let's get started. I have 3 questions I want to answer and go over a couple things in general. If you have any questions, post them in the comments section. Otherwise, I'm going to go through some email questions I got this week, and we're going to hop into the Facebook group and answer some questions over there. The first question I got was from Kathleen. Kathleen said, can you study and challenge the exam without attending an accredited program? Let me know. Of course, that's a fairly common question for folks that either have some experience in the field from back in the day when you could learn it on the job, or people that are interested in the field and don't quite know how it works. You absolutely cannot challenge the ART licensure exam. You have to go through an accredited program that's accredited by the appropriate accrediting bodies, and that's opening up more and more. It used to just be one body, now there's a couple of them, but it has to be an accredited x-ray program. So that's the first thing you always want to check out when you're looking at x-ray programs, is it accredited? And then the second is you have to complete both didactic, which is a fancy word for classroom hours, and clinical hours. And you have to pass both of those satisfactorily from the college, from the program that you attend, in order to qualify to sit for the ART boards. And then you have to, of course, pass those to be able to go out in the world and shoot x-ray. Now, that being said, there are probably still 6 or 7 states out there in the United States. And of course, all of this that I'm talking about only applies to the United States, because outside of the United States there are different organizations, different rules. This is only the USA that I'm talking about. But where are they going with that? So you have to pass the boards. Oh, there's 6 or 7 states that still don't require it. I'm in Idaho, southern Idaho, where it's still freezing outside. We still have lots of snow on the ground. But we don't require a national license here. You can literally hire a secretary or tell your secretary to go push that button and shoot the x-ray, and it's perfectly legal. Now, most hospitals and places like that here in Idaho, the hospitals require the licensure, but they are not mandated nationally or by the state to do so. So if you ever do have an issue where you go through a program and you can't pass the boards, because it happens, some people just aren't good test takers, you can always see if you can work in a doctor's office or something like that in one of these states that does not allow or does not require licensure. I like to point out the website. I've been working on this blog now for 3 years. I've pretty much just brain dumped a lot of my knowledge on it. I've got over 20 years in X-ray and other modalities. I believe if you use this little search bar and look for whatever topic it is that you're interested in and do a search that way, there it is, states that do not require licensure to perform X-rays. And I've got the little infographic there. There's my Idaho, and there's a few others. So you can actually work in those states doing X-ray without a license, but that group is shrinking. And like here in Idaho, they've been trying for a couple of decades to get laws passed so that licensure was required, but the physicians have enough power. See, it's the doctors in the doctor's offices that don't want to pay an X-ray tech. They just want to pay their secretary to do it and save money. And they have enough power in the Idaho Hospital Association to weigh in on these debates, and we just never can get anywhere. I was a big part of it a couple years ago trying to get it passed. I was up in the state capitol lobbying. I had my signs. I took X-rays. I actually took a light board and X-rays that I had received at a local hospital that I had received from another clinic down the street where X-rays were taken by a non-licensed professional. It was a clavicle that was just it was 5 images instead of 2. One was completely black, which means, completely burned out, and just horrible X-rays. And I took those as an example. The problem is most politicians and your average Joe thinks that when they go into a hospital and get an X-ray that person is professionally trained and has a licensure. They're not aware that you don't necessarily have to have a license. So anyway, back to the question, can you study and challenge the exam? No, you cannot. You have to, if you want to get licensed, if you want to work where they require a license, you absolutely have to go to an accredited program. So thanks for that question, Kathleen. Then we'll move on to Eric. Eric said, hello, Ron. I stumbled into this website of yours that's very informative and easy to read through, so I thank you for that. I've recently been accepted into a RadTech program in SoCal. I would appreciate if you knew what is an acceptable pay range for a new grad after the program. Thanks for reading, Eric. Another super common question. It's exactly what I would want to know when I graduate. What kind of money can I expect? So this applies to anyone out there that's in this same area. You're in the program, or you're applying to a program, or you're about to graduate the program. I will first direct you to our Facebook group, which is called the Radiology Technologist Group. We have 4,000 members so far, and it's growing every day. I've got 59 membership requests pending in there right now. I need to go sort through, because I don't approve everybody. There are questions, and it's not just for techs, it's also for people that are looking for information, because that was the whole point of me starting all of this, was to get information out there for the techs and for the people interested in our field, because I found that when I was interested in it, there wasn't anything out there to help me with guidance. And so this Facebook group's been out here for a couple of years, and there are thousands of questions posted on it, and even more thousands of answers to each of these questions. So I brought up this example where I plugged into the search results of this Facebook group interview questions. I mean, you pick your own topic, right? But Eric here is in the program, and then the next question I'll be answering is somebody who's applying for a program. So one of the things that we've talked extensively about in the group are people that are asking about interviews and what kind of interview questions do they ask. And so by plugging in the phrase interview questions in our Facebook group, here are all the times that we've discussed that topic. Here's somebody named Isabella who said, I have an interview coming up. Does anybody know what type of questions are going to be asked? And I'm so nervous. And there are 15 people that chimed in on that. Here's another one from Jordan. I applied to the RadTech program this year, and as an applicant, I have an interview coming up. If anyone had to interview in order to gain acceptance, what kind of questions were you asked? 7 comments. Here's another one, 8 comments. Here's another one, 23 comments. So I implore you to go to the group, the Facebook group, and I'll grab the link here for you, and I'll plop it in the live chat if I can find it. Let's see, right there, our Facebook group. Boom. Go there, join the group, and then you can start asking whatever questions you know. Well, search first and see if your questions are already answered. Like in the case of this one, lots of them answered. And then to stay on topic here, we're talking about Eric and what he might make in Southern California. So here's another good link for you. When I went to, I can't remember if it was the Facebook group or the blog, but I did a search on salary, and one of my posts mentioned that the ASRT, they do an annual survey where they ask all the current technologists who are working, how much are you making? And they anonymize it, but they take all that data and they create this big report, and typically it's only available to members of the ASRT. But I noticed that in 2019, they actually posted it to the public. So the link to that is right here. That is something you might want to bookmark. Bring up the chat. How much can I make? Boom. Go check it out. Now, for the example for Eric, I highlighted California, and the way you read this is these are the different modalities at the top. Radiology, nuclear medicine, therapy or for therapists, MRI, sonography, CT, mammogram, CI for cardio, VI for vascular, MD, I don't know, that can't be radiologist, I'm not sure what that is, but and they should have RPA on here, RRA somewhere. It's 32 pages, so look around. But California, right here under general x-ray, they're making 87,323. See that? So that's the standard for what was reported for California. And if you have never calculated salaries before, there are 2,060 hours worked in a standard year. So you take that 87,323 and divide it by 2060 for the number of hours worked in a year, and it comes up to your hourly rate. So $42.39 is what that's not what I'm saying. This is what the ASRT is saying based on the results they got back from actual technologists in California. Now again, this is 2019, and a lot of things have happened since then. There's a much bigger need out there for more techs, and they're paying a lot higher bonuses and all that, and we can talk about that if you want. But I wanted to show you where to go to find your salaries. Every state is listed, every modality is listed, and some people say, well, what pays the most? Well, here's a good place to figure it out. If you're in California, you got 87,000 for X-ray, 121 for nuke med, 125 for therapy, MR 103, which, yeah, okay, that's about right, 103. Sonography 124, CT 101, Mammo 101, cardio interventional 108, vascular 113, and then whatever they're calling MD, and it probably says down here. Let's see. Oh, dosimetry, a dosimetrist. So, that's pretty standard. X-ray is always at the bottom, and that's the starting point, the bottom rung on the ladder, if you will, in radiology. And then typically goes to MRI and CT. So you see MRI is 103 and CT is 101. And then you jump up to sonography and nuke med, 124, 125. Mammo typically hovers around CT. Same with CI and VI. And interventional's not on here, but it's on here somewhere. And interventional typically pays more than all of them, but it just depends on your hospital and your location. But this is a good general tool to use for figuring out the rate of pay. So, did that take care of you, Eric? Is it acceptable pay range? So yeah, so that should be good. And I shared the links in the comment section right there. Facebook group and the pay. Check Indeed as well. Some facilities list pay range, and you can see which one. So that's a great point. So Annie points out it's not you know, I'll just speaking for myself. I remember early on not wanting to ask questions and not wanting to be too nosy, and just being in this mode of I spent 2 years going through school. I don't want to jeopardize my job, getting a job by asking too many questions, and I'll just take whatever they give me because I just want to get to work. Well, that's not the way to look at it. You are so valuable as a technologist, especially now after COVID, that you really need to understand your value and the fact that hospitals cannot operate without the radiology department. And I've talked about this before, so I won't get into it now, but there are certain things that hospitals can do without in the short run. But no matter what, you absolutely can't diagnose patients that have imaging orders without somebody. And, you know, technologists out there can tell you just about every patient that comes to the ER gets some type of chest x-ray or something. And doctors don't know how to do them. Nurses don't know how to do them. Respiratory therapy doesn't know how to do them. Nobody knows how to do what we do except us. So that being said, let's, well, to piggyback on Annie, you can call the HR department, and I think I have an article on that too. But you can call the HR department and just say, hey, what's the range? They'll never tell you the exact because they won't know the exact until they interview you, ask how much experience you have, and do all these calculations. But you can ask for the range. And if the human resource department at the hospital you're looking at will not give you a range, that is kind of suspect because that should be free information. There's no harm. Because it's standard. There's no harm in saying what a pay range is for somebody interviewing. And it makes sense, right? If you're a new grad and you're going to be looking for a job and you got 3 hospitals in your area, they should know you're going to check all 3. So if they're going to withhold information from you, maybe they're not worth working for. So I'm just saying it doesn't hurt to call them up and say, what's the pay range for an entry level, no experience, fresh out of school rad tech? And they should be able to tell you. And you can ask for benefits. What kind of benefits? Do you offer health and vision and dental, 401k? Any human resource department worth their weight in salt should be able to tell you that stuff without hesitation. So, yeah, so I think we'll stop there with that one. Let's jump into the next one because it answers a little bit more. So James here says, Dr. Jones, I am currently taking the remaining prereqs for the Rad Tech program at Greenville Tech Community College of South Carolina. I was researching some Plan B and Plan C options if I do not get into the program when it comes time. I plan on applying to both my school's Phase 2 clinical Rad Tech programs and a college nearby also that has a similar program to increase my chances. That's exactly what you should be doing. Why put all your eggs in one basket? Always apply to as much as you can. Do you think that sonography is a good Plan B, given that the prereqs might be similar? Let's stop right there. So, James, here's what I say about that. If I didn't lose all my links here. If you go to my YouTube channel and you do a little search in the video section, I have more than one video on ultrasound and why it's a good choice and the difference between ultrasound and x-ray. And here's one, for example, why did so I went to ultrasound school. I did x-ray school, learned CT while I was in x-ray school, and immediately upon graduating from my x-ray program, I was hired as a CT tech, and I did both x-ray and CT at the hospital where I did my clinicals at. And then I immediately applied to ultrasound school and started that about a year later, and I went through ultrasound school. So here is a good video, and I'll post this into the group or onto the comment section. What do I think about ultrasound school and for the career? What I always say about sonography, James, is that it pays more than x-ray, and it's the same duration. It's 2 years. The test, I'm sorry, the test is a bit harder than x-ray, I'd have to say. And back in my time, back in 2003, when I went to x-ray school, you could not go straight into ultrasound without first having an allied health degree in something else. Where I went, which was Gateway Community College in Phoenix, you had to be one of 5 prior ancillary licensed healthcare professionals. You could be a respiratory therapist, a nurse, a nuke med tech. Did I say respiratory therapy? There was something else, I can't remember. But you had to be one of those, or an x-ray tech. You had to be one of those to get into the ultrasound program. And so I had my x-ray license, so I applied it. And there's usually a waiting list too. But nowadays, you do not have to have that prior license because the ART doesn't require it. It used to be the ART had x-ray as a primary pathway and ultrasound as a secondary pathway. Now you can do ultrasound as a primary pathway, which means you can apply to an ultrasound school with no prior experience, and if you get accepted, you're in. Now, understand that the ultrasound techs are licensed primarily, what you call the gold standard, is the ARDMS. That's who licensed sonographers, but the ART got in that game, gosh, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, and started offering a sonography license, and there was kind of an outcry about it because the gold standard had always been the ARDMS or the RDMS. But you can do either one now, and I say, you know, if a hospital says you must be licensed, like I know some hospitals that say you have to be ARDMS licensed. You can't have any other license, because there are ways to shortcut that, and that's another topic. But there are facilities that require the ARDMS. There are other facilities that say, we just want you licensed. And so, and there's probably still some out there that don't care if you're licensed at all, if you know what you're doing. But for you, my friend, if you're interested in ultrasound, really what you're asking in the question is, should you apply to ultrasound school on top of x-ray to increase your chances? I'd say yes if you're interested in both, but there's no reason to go through x-ray school first and then apply to ultrasound. If you're interested in ultrasound school, I would go straight to ultrasound school. You'll make more money. You'll be in higher. So let's talk about demand. And I think the next one. So this video is why choose ultrasound school and the difference between x-ray and ultrasound. This one was about the jobs and things out there in the job market for ultrasound. So you have to understand in a standard hospital, let's just say, so this one was about, emailed questions. Let's just say you have a standard 200-bed hospital and you're going to have maybe 50 technologists in the hospital at any given time. A good 10 to 20 of those are going to be in x-ray, and then 5 to 10 will be in ultrasound, depends on if they have vascular in it or not, and cardio in it or not, because in ultrasound you've got general ultrasound, vascular ultrasound, and echo sonography of the heart. And some hospitals separate out echo by itself in the cath lab and have vascular in general in radiology, and some take vascular out and it's just general radiology or general sonography under the radiology banner, and vascular and echo are under cardiology. So it depends on the setup, but my point is you need a lot less ultrasound techs to fill an ultrasound department than you do x-ray techs, because you have to have x-ray techs up in the OR, covering your ER, covering your outside walk-ins or walkie-talkies as we call them, your floor patients that are coming down all day long. You have to have them in interventional, you have to have them in all the modalities. So when you talk about job market, you need a lot more x-ray techs than you do sonographers. And again, the pay is a good $5 to $10 higher for a sonographer than it is an x-ray tech. The schools technically should be about the same in cost. A public school right now is still around $10,000 if you look around, but private schools can go all the way up to $60,000, and that's supply and demand. The pro and con, which is a whole nother topic, and I've written about it. You can type in the YouTube channel or the blog about pros and cons of public versus private. And the pro of the public is cheaper, but there's usually a 2 to 3 year waiting list. The con is it's going to cost a lot more. Well, let's see. So the pro to the private is you get in faster. The con is it's going to cost a lot more. The pro to the public is it's going to be cheaper, but the con is it's going to take longer to get in. So we're talking about James and the question about, do you think sonography is a good plan B? So absolutely. if that's what you want to do, you should go. I would try to shadow if you can, because you may not know really what ultrasound is like. I didn't until I was in X-ray and started kind of shadowing and seeing it done. As an X-ray tech, I got to see what everybody else was doing, and that's when I started liking sonography. But it is a good backup plan. I would certainly go ultrasound over X-ray if you can. A lot of people get into X-ray, they try it out for 3-5 years, whatever, and then they try to climb the ladder, go to CT or MR, or go back to school for nuke. And I have a general video on my channel. It's something like the 5 reasons I got into radiography, and I talk about all the different modalities and which ones require school and which ones are on the job, because they don't all require school. Some of them are just on the job training, and most of them are that way. But yes, I think sonography is a great plan B, and yes, I think you should definitely apply to multiple schools if you can. Do you think the job market for male sonographers? So that's a whole nother question. Males are the minority, not only in ultrasound, but in healthcare, period. There has always been more females in healthcare than there have been males. But that number is changing and it's slowly catching up, but we're still quite a ways off. I don't foresee a problem getting hired as a male sonographer. I did it for 10 years. I had chaperones anytime I needed a chaperone. Now it's usually required by company policy. Plus, I wouldn't do it anyway. I wouldn't do certain exams without another female in the room. That's protection for the tech. So yeah, there's still a job market, and you really need to ask yourself, you need to do some research on the different types of ultrasound, because if you were to go just to an echo sonography school, which you can do, you can just go straight into the cardiac ultrasound. That really doesn't matter what gender you are, because all you're doing is different views of the heart, and there's ways to keep anatomy covered, where general sonography can do transvaginal or breast exams and it's right there and it's not covered. So there's different dynamics to what type of ultrasound you're doing. So I actually wanted to go all the way to echo, because that makes the most out of everything, and if you can get into echo, then you can subspecialize into pediatric echo, which is even more money. But I never got that far. I just got to general ultrasound and some vascular. So lastly, what are your thoughts on respiratory therapy? What I've said in the past, and I'll show you what I've said in the past: respiratory therapy versus radiologic technologist, which is better? So there's that link. We'll hop in here and share that one. And I'll be sending you an email. I'll reply to your email with the link to this video, because you didn't know. Folks never know that I'm doing video answers for the most part, till I email them and say, hey, I answered your question on a video, because it's just easier for me to get on here and talk, because there's a lot of different aspects about it. It's just so hard to write this stuff down. So respiratory therapy, here's an entire 31 minutes about it. But in summary, it's a completely different job. Radiology, for the most part, depending on your modality, you spend very little time with the patient. Well, that's X-ray, and you move on to the next patient. Respiratory therapy, you're doing arterial blood gases, which can be 5 minutes, or you can do breathing treatments that can take a lot longer. Some hospitals allow you to intubate, some don't. You do vent treatments, vent management, ventilator management. The nurses used to do that decades ago. Now it's respiratory therapists. I personally I don't mind blood and guts, but I don't like the sound of suctioning mucus. And one of the things respiratory therapists do often, and a lot now with COVID, is they're in the ICU shoving the tubes down into the lungs and suctioning the mucus and the liquids out of the lungs. And I'm just not a big fan of that sound. So respiratory is not for me, but if you can handle that kind of stuff, again, I recommend you try to shadow if HIPAA will let you. But back in the day, respiratory was a little bit shorter program. It was like 16 months, 17, 18 months instead of 24 like ours. But the way I hear is they're starting to lengthen that. And their pay used to be lower, but I hear the pay's catching up to X-ray now. So again, you might want to check that out. I do have, I believe, on this video, because when I talk about these different modalities, people are nice enough to chime in that are doing it. So if I remember right, this particular video on
or any radiology modality check will tell you physician.
LSJ Digital gave information that he knows about advanced practice registry. So what he's talking about is where nurses can become nurse practitioners, x-ray techs can actually become registered radiology assistants, which is kind of like a PA for radiology, but you don't have near as much privilege. But it's an elevated x-ray tech that has more responsibility and liability. And respiratory, because I was talking in this video about job opportunities once you get into a particular job. You know, I always brag about radiology because we have all these different options we can go, pathways that you can choose. Where nurse, you're either a nurse, or you go nurse anesthetist, or you go nurse practitioner, and that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, you can be a nurse at a bunch of different kinds of departments, but you're still a nurse. In X-ray, you got X-ray, CT, MRI, ultrasound, nuke med, PET scanning. You've got IR. You've got all these different kinds of things you can do. So this person was sharing on the video that there's an advanced respiratory therapy program where you could do more things. So check out the comments under these videos, because oftentimes, and it's the same thing with the Facebook group, a lot of people give a lot of extra information when answering these questions, and it's very helpful. So that is the answer. Thanks. Listen to the channel all the time. Big fan. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. And anybody on now, if you could please hit the like button, I would appreciate that as well. Those were the 3 emails that I needed to address. Let me make sure that I got to what I wanted to say. So that's just the channel. That's why I chose ultrasound school. There's different things about the ultrasound jobs. Respiratory therapy and what they do. I mentioned that he talks about it in the comments. What was this one? That's just my channel. Video details. Oh, so this was back to Eric, pretty much, or even James, the people that are in the program or applying to a program. I think it was Eric that asked about the pay in Southern California. So I have this video on negotiating your x-ray salary, because what a lot of us, when we're new grads, like I said earlier, we're worried about just getting the job and getting the money coming in because we've been working for free for 2 years, right? So we tend to kind of back down during the interview and post-interview, and I'll get you in just a second, Elena. Sorry about that. You're so valuable that I did this video to help you understand that and to learn how to negotiate your salary. I can tell you from being in administration for over 10 years that, and if you think about it, it makes sense. If you interview with me and I want to hire you, am I going to come right out and, if I've got this range of $25 to $30 an hour, am I going to offer you $30 an hour right off the bat? No. Am I going to offer you 27 or 28? No. I'm going to offer you the least amount I can get away with, that you accept the job. That way I have as much money saved back for buying equipment and other things as possible. But you should also know that a lot of times the administrator has no say. It's all up to the human resources department. So I may think you're worth $30 an hour, but it's human resources that will tell me what you're going to be paid. But here's the inside secret. They never offer you what they're prepared to pay if necessary. And right now, you are so desperately needed that I would never accept, and I say it in the video, I would never accept the first offer. I would always counter. It's one of the major rules of business. You never accept your first offer, because nobody's willing to give away the farm on the first offer. If you're buying a bicycle off Facebook Marketplace, they're asking, $300 for it. You don't go see them and go, okay, here's $300. You say, well, what will you really take for it? Some people have a hard time with that, but you got to realize this is your job. You may be there for 10 or 20 years, and this is where all your future raises are going to be based off of this. You want to start off as good as you possibly can. So when they make you an offer, assuming you get an offer, once they've decided to make you an offer, and I talk about that in this video, but what you guys don't know that haven't been on the admin side is once they've decided to make you an offer, it's because they're serious about hiring you. And so if you counter with an extra 50 cents or an extra $1, and I tell you how much to do it in the video, but if you counter and they don't want to pay you that, they're not going to revoke the offer. Because if you made it to an offer, then they like you and they want you. If you say I want 50, if you do it properly, and say, you know, I kind of drive a long way, and I give you how to say it in the video. If you ask for 50 more cents, they're either going to say no, do you still want the job or not, or they're going to counter, well, we'll give you 25 cents, or they're going to give you the 50 cents. And they may say, well, we'll have to get back to you tomorrow. We've got to check our budget. You know, they may play hardball and make you wait, but you never accept your first offer. You always, and you can tell them that you need to wait. They offer you 25 bucks an hour. You can say, you know, I think that's a great offer. Can I think about it for 24 hours? I'll get back to you tomorrow. Let me talk to my spouse. Let me talk to my parents. Let me talk to whatever. You don't even need to say you're going to talk to anybody. Just say, I want to think about it for 24 hours. You may be able to say, I have other offers I need to consider. You know, it's nothing wrong with saying that if you do have other offers. Just be truthful. Make them wait a day. And then go back and say, you know, I've thought about it, and here's the different reasons why I think I'm worth just a little extra 50 cents an hour. You know, and I go over all that in the video, so you can learn all that in there. But I want you to know there are interview techniques and there are negotiating techniques if you get the offer that you need to be aware of. And so that's why I brought up this video, and I'll go ahead and copy that link, and I will stick that in the comment section. And then I'll take a quick second to look at who's been talking. How to negotiate. I really wish they would bold this stuff or something so it kind of stood out more. But it says, hi Ron, thank you for creating community for prospective current rad techs. I'm applying for school soon and your contact has been so helpful. Thanks, Elaine. I really appreciate that. That's really been my whole purpose for the last 3 years since I started all this. Because when I started back before, I was a phlebotomist for 10 years, just drawing blood. And I decided to check out X-ray because I saw them in the hospital and it appealed to me, and there was nothing. And as the internet has grown, what I've seen out there are just bogus websites that get paid based on how many people come to their website, right? The advertisements, you get paid per click or paid per view. And so they'll just post all this garbage that Google picks up and puts it in the search results. So if you type in X-ray tech salary, you might get taken one of those junk websites that don't even know what they're talking about. They're just trying to get everybody to come there so they get advertising money. And it's wrong information. So I decided to build my own blog. And I built this blog, The Radiology Technologist, I think 2019 is when I started it. And if you look at the sitemap, that's where I started to list all the articles by content. And I kind of started trying to tag them all because there's over 200, I think I'm getting close to 300 articles on there now. And it's getting kind of difficult to manage. But all the way from how to write your resume to what a typical day looks like if you're in a hospital or a clinic, interview strategies. I mean, I go through all this stuff. And that's just, and I haven't updated it in a while. That stopped at 113. And then I've got videos on all kinds of stuff. I even did a couple podcasts, which were really fun. But the other thing you need to know is I have a whole bunch of study guides and resources for you. I have anatomy guides that are based off of x-rays. You can go through and pick whichever part of the body you want to work on, pull it up, and it'll show you the x-ray. It'll have the answers blocked out. And you can do this on your cell phone. You can test yourself, and then the answers are right below it. Test yourself, and the answers are right below it. And then I also have sample tests. If we go back to the resources page, click on classroom quizzes, and I've got a little bit of every class. I've got pathology, positioning 1 and 2, sectional anatomy, patient care, physics, and I'm getting more stuff all the time and posting that. So just know you have a resource out there at the radiologictechnologist.com, and I'll take that and I'll plunk it in there as well. Free, helpful, let's see if I can spell tutorials. There's that. So thanks for pointing it out, Elaine. I appreciate it. Going through to make sure I got everything. Talked about negotiating your pay. Come on. That's a nothing page. Oh, so those of you that are going to be interviewing, people are constantly saying, well, what should I prepare for? What do I need to know? This is one I did. This was one of the very first videos I did where I talked about the questions that I ask as a director, and I reverse engineered them for you. I went over, I don't know, 15 to 20 questions, and I tell you why we ask them, and I tell you what we're looking for in the answers, because there's certain ways, and this is standard across every industry, but you ask certain questions to elicit certain responses and see how people deal with things. And so this video talks about all the different types of questions and what they're looking for in the answers. That's that one. But you can go into the Facebook group and ask about, you can do a search for interview questions or whatever, and you'll see all the different times we've talked about it. And I do want to point out too that there are a handful of groups I recommend on Facebook. I have that one called the Radiology Technologist group. If I hit group over here, it's taking some time, but there's a radiology group. I'm actually the moderator of that one. That one's getting so spammy, I don't really recommend it. But it's got a ton of people in it. It's an old group. The person who runs it asked me to help out because they were getting overwhelmed. 21, almost 22,000 people in there, but it's a bunch of advertisements about different things. So here's some helpful stuff. This is junk. I got to go in and remove that. A bunch of ads for schools. So I just don't recommend this one anymore. It's bloated. It's full of people from all over the world who don't know anything about the ART or what we do here differently from abroad. But it's out there, and you can search it. So maybe you want to know about ultrasound. You can certainly search the group for it and see what comes up. It's probably one of the biggest groups. There's Rad Tech, which is another really good group. I do recommend that one. There's also X-ray Tech, I believe. If I can get this thing to go back. Come on. X-ray Technologist page is another one that I moderate. It's not my group, but somebody asked me to help out. They have 10,000 members. This one's actually fairly decent. There's people asking questions in here. I wish everybody was under the same thing, but they're not. For some reason, people join different groups for different reasons. And so this is another one I do recommend if you want to have a multitude of groups to jump into. And then there are also groups for travel radiology. Some of you are interested in traveling. Imagine Imaging Travel is a great group to ask. And I've even gone there. I said, hey, as a director who hasn't done an exam for a couple of years, would anybody be interested in hiring me as a traveler? Because I know there's some great demand with some great bonuses out there right now, and I just wanted to ask all the people who are currently doing traveling what they thought of that, and they replied, absolutely. Doesn't matter if it's been 10 years. They need it so bad out there, they'll be happy to take you on. But this one, Imagine Imaging Travel, is for traveling techs. So I encourage you to get involved in some of the Facebook groups. Reddit has a subreddit called Radiology that has a lot of good information on it. And those mods do a great job taking care of that group. So if you go to Reddit and do a search for radiology, you'll see that subreddit. And so Rudy says, I just did my interview on the 12th. I felt like it went well, just waiting for an answer. Rudy, is that for a job or for school? Which one was that? Elena said, good luck, Rudy. My school doesn't require interviews, but they are letting in less people this year. So we're talking about schools. Yeah, the thing that bothers me now about the schools is they're starting to require the COVID shot. And I still think that should be a personal right, but that's another topic. But because the hospitals are requiring it, the schools are requiring it, because the schools, I hate to say it, care more about their clinical sites and not losing a clinical site than they do the students. They should treat you well, and they should take care of you. Thanks, Rudy. But because I experienced that as a student, I caused a little bit of trouble. Not trying to, but I caused a little bit of trouble at my clinical site, and my school came in and said, you're on probation, and if you mess up again, you're out of the program because we're not going to lose this clinical site because you're making them mad. I thought that was very interesting because I paid $20,000 for my X-ray program, and I wanted to say, so I'm paying you $20,000 to work for free for 2 years, but you don't care about me, you care about your clinical site. And at the end of the day, the answer was yes. So you have to be careful at your clinical site, but that doesn't mean you have to put up with crap. And that's what I was doing, was I was putting up with unfair treatment. But anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked. So I've answered the emails, I've answered the group chat stuff. We are at, how far in are we? Somewhere should tell me that. I know I got a timer somewhere. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe. I would appreciate that. Yes. So you have to be careful. There I am. Where's the timer, guys? 75 minutes ago. Okay. So we're over an hour. So I'll probably ought to wrap it up. I've covered a lot of topics on here. There are Facebook questions that need to be answered, but I can get those another time, or I can go answer them on Facebook. So I hope this has been helpful to you guys out there, and thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you hadn't already. And if you have any questions after this, you can post them on the YouTube video comments. I answer those as fast as I can. I also reply if you go to my blog. It's how most people do it, and go to contact. There's a little form you can fill out that asks for your name, email, and your question. Send it there. I'll get the email. I can't promise to answer it right away, but I'll get to it as soon as I can, usually with one of these, because people, there's not a lot new under the sun in the world of radiology. Yes, the equipment is evolving, but the bones in the arm are the bones in the arm, and they've been the same for thousands of years. So sharing certain information never changes. And so I like to answer these questions with a video and put it out there for other people that might have the same question. So I think we're good. Let me bring that back up one more time, make sure I don't have anything else in the questions. Okay, so we're good. So thanks everybody for stopping by. Have a great rest of your Monday. And next time maybe we'll go over some of the latest news in Ant Mini and see what other questions we have. Take care, everybody.